So this new book, the Post-Racial Negro Green Book.
Yeah.
All right. Let's first of all talk about the Green Book. Some folks may not be familiar with that. What was the original Green Book?
Well, I have a copy of it.
Okay.
The original Green Book was published from 1936 to 1966 as a guide for black people during segregation so that they could find services when they were on the road.
Mm-hmm. And how did it work? All right, let's take a gander here. The Negro Motorist Green Book.
That's right.
So, for example, if I see I'm going to Kentucky, say, okay, we got to stop in Elizabethtown, then they're going to say where the tourist homes are, and then any hotels.
Yeah, is there a place that you can eat? You can't go anywhere, obviously, not just anywhere. You've got to be able to find who will sell you gas, who will sell you food, where can you sleep, where could you get a haircut.
Okay. And now, did you study a number of the editions of this particular book, or you're familiar with it?
I actually didn't. Yeah, I was just familiar with it, and I thought that the format, the concept would be really, it would make a really solid point if I used that for the book that I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I see there's similarities in the cover. Did you have to get permission for...
I didn't. No, the Negro Motorist Green Book is public domain.
Right.
So I was able to just borrow from it.
Okay. And let's talk about now your Post-Racial Negro Green Book, and tell us a little bit about it.
All right. The Post-Racial Negro Green Book is, in its simplest terms, a snapshot of contemporary racism. What I did is I compiled all of the reported incidents of racism toward black people that I could find, and I put them into the format of basically a green book. And I used the time frame 2013 to 2016, so it's not all racism ever, but it's a pretty concise window of time that gives you a really clear snapshot of what it's like to be black in America today.
So did you pick, I would imagine you have in there some of the police killings, or like what, you know what I'm saying? That seemed like a pretty vast topic. Did you say this is specifically what I want to focus on?
I started with police brutality. There's a website called Mapping Police Violence, which is where I got the time frame from. They did a tremendous job of compiling all of the police shootings from 2013 to 2016. So I was able to isolate all the ones involving black people and start from there. And then I grew it out. So anything that I could find reported. So you're going to find everything in there from employment discrimination to murder. It's all in there. And yes, you're going to find your Philando Castiles, your Alton Sterling, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, all of that stuff as well.
And now, I know there was a report I heard about that there's a lot that's going on with females also, which is underreported. So how did you, in other words, take extra steps to try to make sure females were represented in terms of what's being reported, or how did you
didn't. Anything that was reported was fair game for this book. I actually found, and I tried to make a point of not providing findings or conclusions, but to just give people the facts and data. But I did find there was a strong skew toward the mentally ill as far as victims go, more so than female as a victim group.
And do you have, like, you know, how many incidents you have or captured in the book, or how did you spend the time? Is it like 100? Is it like 50? Is it like a couple of hundred? Is it?
That's a good question. You know, I've never counted, but it's a lot. When you look at the book, you're going to see that it's actually blurbs. I wrote everything into really manageable blurbs.
Okay.
And I have never counted them, but it's a lot, and some states have much longer entries than others.
Okay.
You won't be surprised to hear that, I'm sure.
And which are the states do you want to divulge with?
Florida, Georgia, California was bad. Some were surprising, like Ohio. I had no idea. It's really pretty racist. So there was some learning in there for me in doing this research.
So now, when you're talking about racist, it seems like you have to come to a conclusion that some activity is it just, in other words, violence against people of color or black folks, or is it actually this was an act of racism?
I was pretty strict about what I would include. So just because a cop is white and a victim is black, that doesn't mean it's racist. I looked for more than that, and I looked for things that corroborated my assertion that it belongs in this book.
And I see you have another 100 Years of Lynching.
Yeah, I was working with 100 Years of Lynching for the novel that I'm working on, and this actually is complete newspaper articles from the 1800s to the 1900s about lynching. So of course, this book is not exhaustive, and neither is mine. It's everything that was reported. But I was working with this, and I had a copy of the Negro Motorist Green Book. And I actually had, a few years ago, started compiling the racism incidents electronically because there was just so much, and it was coming so fast. And I felt like someone needs to be collecting and preserving this because it's contemporary history, and there are people involved in this that have really galvanized current movements. So I felt like it was important. So I did that. And then when I realized that when I looked at both of these books together, 100 Years of Lynching and the Negro Motorist Green Book, I realized I should put this contemporary stuff into a book. It needs to be in a book. So it's basically the same thing they did with 100 Years of Lynching, only in blurbs rather than reprints of full articles.
Okay. And now tell us about... So now, what's your take on the whole... we all have our own opinions about kind of the racism or what goes on. Like, have you noticed it being significantly different or down here in the South as opposed to when you were in Los Angeles? Is it any different when you were on the East Coast? Or what's your take on it?
It's hard to say. I feel like what feels different about racism to me now is our ability to see it recorded. Things are different now because everyone has a cell phone and police have body cameras. So I don't know if there's more racism now, or if it's just that we have the opportunity to witness it more.
And do you think that do you foresee any kind of method to maybe change it, or at least kind of slow it down a little bit, or you think it's important to our the fiber of our country?
Racism?
Yes.
I don't know that we can get rid of it, but because I didn't want the post-racial Negro Green Book to be just a book of horrors, I did include some information in the introduction about things that you can do to engage on this issue to maybe improve matters.
All right, good.
I have not, but this book, I feel, has really strong educational applications, and so I've started working on some curriculum as a corollary for the book, because I feel like you can do workshops around it for people who want to learn about identifying racism and work on, improving racial dynamics in their own environment. And I also feel like the book would be great in classroom settings for, I thought college, but I've had people tell me high school as well, for people who want to study racism or just African American studies, critical race theory, sociology. I think a lot of applications. So I'm working on figuring out how to get this book into classrooms.
Okay. Now, so there's a separate curriculum that you're working on.
Exactly.
And so in other words, do you look at what the standards that are required and you say, okay, maybe we can match these up? Like, what's the process?
Like Common Core?
Common Core, there you go, yes.
No, what I've been working on right now is for adults, and I just spoke at Community Book Center, which is carrying the book, and I was able to do a mini workshop in my presentation, so I workshopped my workshop a little bit. But yeah, it went really well, and that was an adult audience, which is what I would anticipate what I'm doing to be targeted at.
So, in your research, do you have individuals maybe that you kind of work with, or is it all strictly you're solo and you're working on it by yourself?
I did it. I did it all, start to finish, except for the copy edit. I am an editor. I will always be an editor, but when I write, it's best, of course, that I have someone else do the edit.
Yeah. So you're in the library, you're doing your research, or do you do mostly online?
I did all of this on the internet. Yeah, like honestly, anyone could have done this book. Of course, it helps to have a publishing background. But all of this information, everything you find in here, you can find on the internet. And I was careful to make sure that there's enough information in every blurb that I've written that you would be able to go back and research it for yourself. And maybe you want to find out, whatever happened with that, was there any development or any other information? You can find it with the information in the book.
With research, okay. Any other books? I know you got the 100 Years of Lynching. Is there any other material that you would say kind of inspired you to maybe go in this direction, or?
No, it was the combination of seeing those two books together on my desk, and it just hit me. That's exactly what I need to do, and it just dropped everything. And I worked on this book from June to October, like nonstop.
Okay.
Just incessantly. I'd come home from work and I would write the entire evening, research or write, and then I'd work all week. I had no life. I had no life, and I literally gave myself a neck condition working on this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to some more great things. And I'm Delfeayo Marsalis. We've been sitting with author extraordinaire Jan Miles, and she has her new document, the post-racial Negro Green Book, and it was inspired by the original, the Negro Motorist Green Book, which told folks where to go when they were traveling. So we want to thank you very much, and thank you for coming on out. Very delighted to have you here.
Likewise.
And that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Delfeayo Marsalis. Later. Catch you next time.